So I'm going to come here and create a new Python notebook or Jupyter notebook, and I'll call it Python control flow. Some people call it control statements. But before we go, I would like to introduce us to some concepts. And I will want to appeal to everyone to please give me your attention while I explain this concept so that everything that we are doing when we get into the practical stage or hands-on stage makes a lot of sense. So that is very, very important. So the first thing to note is that before you write a program, any program, whether it is scripting to solve a particular problem, you need to first understand that problem. Understanding that problem is a key. And I think that is some of the challenges that many people face that makes them to think that programming is difficult. So you have to have an understanding of that problem, and then you must have a carefully planned approach which you are going to use to solve it. That is number one. Having the understanding of the problem is not enough, or having a carefully planned approach is not enough. It is important that you also understand the building block of any programming language you want to use. In this case, Python. And that is why this particular training series is built from the ground up to make it look like we start from afresh, from ground zero, and we are going to the top hero, right? So having an understanding of Python building blocks is very, very important. Now, one of the things that you need to understand when you want to write any program is something that we call algorithm. It's something that we call algorithm. Sometimes ago, I was working at Google, and I was told one of the reasons why many developers from African origin don't get hired at Google. And one of the reasons is the fact that people know how to write program. They know how to write code. But the challenge is they don't have an understanding of algorithm. And as a result, the code are scattered. So what is an algorithm? Right? Basically, an algorithm is the laid down procedure for solving a problem. An algorithm is a laid down procedure for solving a problem. Right? Let me give you an example. Let us assume that you want to marry. Your problem is to get married. That's the problem. Right? Remember, the problem becomes an objective. That is what your problem in terms of programming becomes your objective that you want to achieve. So what is your objective? Your objective is to get married. You've got to highlight some of the things that you want to do. Right? You have to highlight some of the things that you want to do before you can get married. Let's assume that the first thing is find an appropriate, let me use a man as an example. I do not want to be generic. So let me use a man as an example. So you find an appropriate woman that you want to marry. You propose to the woman. Those are steps that you are going to take. The fact that you've seen or you found an appropriate woman doesn't mean that you are married. It's one of the steps. It's one of the procedures. So when you find an appropriate woman, the next thing is to become friend with that woman. Then the next thing is to propose to the woman. If she say, now look at this. There's something in this place we call branching. Some of you would have read that link of the flow chart that I sent to you. You will have an understanding from there. So if you propose and she says yes, then proceed to paying dowry. Right? I'm talking in an African tradition now, or what we call lobola in South Africa. If she says no, continue with your friendship. Right. Now, if dowry or lobola is accepted, select a wedding date. If dowry or lobola is rejected, go back to dowry or lobola negotiation. Once you get wedded, you are married. Then you become newly married. Your laid down procedure has been finally executed. So an algorithm is a laid down procedure for solving a problem in terms of the action that you will take to execute the problem and the order. I mean the order, this ordered in this way, that is the sequential order in which those actions will be executed. Right. That is very, very important. Right. Now, what is essential now is the ability. Listen to this, please. It's very, very important. What is essential is the ability to correctly specify the order in which you are going to execute your actions that you have laid down. Very, very important. Right? So this algorithm is very, very important. And that particular algorithm leads to something we call pseudocode. Leads to something we call pseudocode. Something like this. Now, a pseudocode is a thinking out informal English. It's a thinking out informal English algorithm. For instance, problem. To get married, right? Pseudocode, which is the thinking out informal English. 1, find an appropriate woman. 2, become, right? Become friend with the woman. 3, propose to the woman. 4, if proposal is accepted, right? go to, I'm going to call this 3A. So I'm going to say 3A. So I'm going to say 3A. If proposal is accepted, go to 4. So 4, right? What's the 4? Go to pay dowry, right? Or lobola. I don't know what they call it in other countries, but those are the two countries. I know we call it dowry in Nigeria and lobola in South Africa. Now we say if proposal is accepted, go to 4. Else or otherwise. Remember, it's an English. Else, go back to 2. Right? So here, we come here, we say 4A, if dowry or lobola is accepted, go to 5. Right? Else, go back to 3. What is 5? 5, organize, say organize and carry out wedding activities. Right? 6, end. Objective achieved. Right. That's basically what you call a pseudocode, but it's an English version of algorithm. Right? Okay. Now, this basically leads us to what we call control statement or control flow. As I said, some people call it control statement or control flow. Okay, I think, yeah. So if you look at what we have been doing so far, let's go there. If you look at what we have been doing so far, right, with all the code we've been written so far, right, they are basically written in a particular order, sequential order. For instance, you have to say A equal 5. You say B equal 6. You say C equal A multiplied by B. Print the answer is C. And when you run this, the system evaluates A first, then going to evaluate B, then going to evaluate C. Right? It evaluates A, then going to evaluate B, then going to evaluate C. And then it's going to print this. That is, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4. This page is not counting. I mean, it's not counted anyway. So it does that, right? So all programs in Python are written using 3 forms of control. 3 forms of control. What are those forms? I mean, those forms of control They are sequential, right? Sequential execution. They are what we call selection statements, and they are repetition like that. So all programs, let's make this all programs written in Python, right, are executed or are written using three forms of control. And those are three forms of control. Those are this, and this. You see what I said here? The explanation that I give here is basically a sequential execution. Is basically a sequential execution. We are not going to concern ourselves with this because that is basically the baby steps that we have been taking. That is the baby step that we have been taking. Now, we are going to concern ourselves. We're going to concern ourselves with these two, the selection statement and repetition. Right. Let me quickly explain both for us before we then go further to start doing the example. The first one, which is the selection statement, basically has three types of selection statements: the if statement, the if-else statement, and then the if-elif statement. So we have if-else, if-elif-else statement. So this statement, this if statement, performs an action only if a condition is true. The if statement, note, performs an action only if the statement is true. If the statement is not true, it will ignore that action. It will not do anything. The if-else statement performs an action if a condition is true, and then performs a different action if the condition is not true, otherwise false. Right? The if-elif-else performs one of many different actions depending, listen to this, this if-elif-else perform one of many different actions depending on the truth or the falsity of several conditions. That is, it will check the other condition. It will, if the condition is true, it ignores the other condition and perform the action. If the condition is not true, it will go to check the other condition and perform the action that is or are attached to the other condition. And if it cannot find any of the condition true, it then performs whatever action that is attached to else. Now, quickly, the repetition has two repetition statements, which is the while loop, and the for loop. So the while loop repeats an action. Listen to this. The while loop repeats an action only as long as the condition is true. The while loop repeats an action as long as the condition remains true. Once the condition remains true, the action will keep on going. The for loop repeats an action for every item. It repeats an action or a group of action for every item in a sequence of that item or list. Let me explain all of them again. Let me explain all of them again. The if statement performs an action only if the condition is true. If the condition is not true, otherwise, if the condition is false, it will not perform any action. It will just skip. Nothing will be done. That is what the if does. The if else performs an action if the condition is true, otherwise it performs a different action if the condition is false. Right? The if else performs one of many different actions. It performs one of many different actions depending on the truth or falsity of the conditions that are attached. For example, it checks the first condition. If that condition is true, it performs the action that is attached to the condition and ignores every other thing. If that condition is false, it goes down to evaluate other conditions that are attached to it. Right? And if it cannot find any of the condition to be true, it will then perform the action that is attached to the else statement. Right. Basically, in summary of all the things that I've explained, you form your Python program by your real Python program, and that is where we are going, by combining as many control statements that you need for your algorithm. Don't forget, it is important when you have a problem, the first point of solution is not looking for the solution to the problem. The first point of solution is laying down the procedure that you are going to use to solve the problem. This is basically what we call an algorithm, right? This is what you call an algorithm. It's very, very important to have an understanding. So you construct your Python program from your sequential execution, your if else, if else, the while, and the for statement. So let's start from the if statement. Let's start from the if statement. So I'm going to come here, right? And I'm going to say here, I just want to make this appropriate. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to say if statement, right? And I'm going to do this. Now, I'm looking for how to explain this and what I can use as an example. Okay, let us assume that let us assume that, because when you are working on a problem, you have to find a various way to solve it. So when you are given a problem, you are asked to do this, that is this and this. So let us assume that passing an exam requires you to have, let's say, 70%, right? So, and I say, write a simple program that confirms if that confirms or determine the condition of a student grade, whether the student pass or not. The passing mark is 70. The pass mark is 70. How do you approach that? Right? I'm going to write the pseudocode in form of a statement, in form of a comment, right? So I'm going to say here, your pseudocode will be you find out if the student grade is 70. But remember, we say there's every possibility. There's every possibility that a student will score more than 70. Does that make sense? So if you say, let's say you now say, look at this. You say if you first declare grade, let's say you declare grade variable, let's say you say 70. Let's say you say 70, yeah. And then you say if grade. Now, one thing I need to also teach you is that you need to understand the concept and the power of indentation or indentation in Python. They call it indentation. That is to indent something, whereby I'll show you what that means now. So if I say if grade, remember equal, this is an equal assignment operator. And you know this is used for to do comparison, right? You will still remember we did this in our first session. So you say if grade equal 70, right? For all the control structure, you are going to use, once you declare that control structure, I'm talking about the if else, while, and for, you have to put this colon at the end. It's a must in Python, not in every programming language. In Python. And once you go down, observe that indentation. Observe that indentation. You see where the cursor is, right? If I say, I would then say print student passed. If I run this, it will say student passed. Now, if I do not observe the indentation, please take note. If I do not observe the indentation, let's say I bring inside the control structure and function, we are going to do function in our next session, function and object-oriented programming. And function and object-oriented programming or your class, if I then come here, now look at what it's going to do for me. Even though this code is correct, but because I do not or did not observe the indentation law or rules or syntax, the appropriate word to use is syntax. So if I do not observe the indentation syntax, syntax is basically an English explanation of how something must be done. So if I do not follow the syntax, look at what it's going to give me. It's going to give me a syntax error called indentation error. You see, it says indentation error. This thing expected an indented block because I've used the if. If I do the same thing for if else, if else, while loop or for loop, the same thing is going to be observed. And when you are creating function or classes, you must also follow the same protocol. That's the syntax, right? So if I come here to say, and if I run it again, everything is fine. So that's how to use. We say if grade equal 70, print student passed. Now look at this. Say grade is equal to 90. And I run this. What happened? Nothing happens. Why? Because grade is not equal 70. But here it is, the student got more than 70. Are you with me? The student got more than 70. So when you are facing with a problem, that is when you have a problem that you need to solve, you have to think of how to solve the problem first. It is very, very important. And that is one of the things that when you see some of the sophisticated programs that we use, like the Microsoft Word, Excel, and all those things, you think those things are intelligent, but they have sat down and thought about every possible error that a human being that is using the system is going to make. And then they did what you call error catch for you. So you have to think, what if the student gets more than 70? Because more than 70 is also pass. This is why you have to have an understanding of the foundation. Hence, you must understand some basic things that look boring when we started, like the operator. You need to have an understanding of what each and every of those operators does. For instance, I think we use PyCharm, right, to do the operator. So I'm just going to open PyCharm, but in case you need to do a refresh course on the operator, I think you can go to week 1 of what is it called? Week 1 of I'm looking for the project. Just hold on for me, please. So that is it about the if else. If statement. That's it about the if statement. What is important in an if statement, as I said earlier, is the condition. So in if statement, if the condition is true, the action is performed. So if you look at this, this is the condition. Your condition is what follows the if. Your statement or your action is what follows the condition. So it is not about the operator. The reason why I just explained this is for you to be able to solve a problem and be able to think critically when you have a problem. It doesn't necessarily have to be great. Let us assume that you want to write a code to say, if it is raining, you see, there's no, what is it called? There's no operator. Let me give you an example. Let's say we say question, right? Question equal input, right? Please enter in, okay, please enter yes or no to signify if it is raining or not, right? Are you with me?
Yes.
We expect the user to enter either yes or no. There's every possibility that the user enters something else, a gibberish. You understand what I mean? Type something like, we are not interested in that for now. For now, I don't want to confuse you. So there's a way you can undo something like that. But for now, that is not the purpose of this class. The purpose of this class is to teach you if. So I want us to take it one after the other. So now you then say, if, are you with me? Question.
Yes.
If question equal yes. Remember, it's a string. We are not talking about, right? You then say, you have to put this, don't forget. And you say print. Remember, question is a variable, and the value that you are going to assign to that variable is what the user inputs here. And we say, if the user input yes, let us assume that it is raining. And then you say print, tell the user, you need to take the brown jacket in the wardrobe. That's all. We're not interested in, if the user enters no, nothing is going to happen because we are dealing with only if statement. So if I run this, I said, please enter yes or no to signify if it is raining or not. Forget about my English. So if I say, now look at this. If I say yes, nothing happens. But then I enter yes. Are you with me?
Yes.
You know why? Python is case sensitive. This yes with capital Y is different from this yes with lowercase y. They are not the same thing. Right? So if I run it again and I say yes, you see what happened? It says you need to take the brown jacket in the wardrobe. Period. Right? Let's move to the if else. If else. I'm gonna make this a markdown, right? Remember, as I said earlier, the if-else basically perform a different switch or a different action if the condition is not true. And how do you do that? We're going to come here. Now, remember what we did here, right? Instead of us entering, instead of us to say, I'm now going to say, let's now make it interactive, instead of us supplying the number here. So I'm now going to say grade. Let's say we say grade equal int, remember, and you do this, you say input, int input, right? Remember this, and you say, please enter the student grade, right? And then here, what do? You just say, you come down again and you say, if grade is, let's say, greater than or equal to 70, right? You say, you do this, don't forget. And then you come down and you say print, right? To say, well done to the student. The student has passed, right? That signifies, this signifies the end of the if, right? This signifies the end of the if. You now want to say else. You now say, remember, when you say else, you are going to get out of the if. You have to go back to where the if starts from. You must follow the indentation rule. You are going to get out of the if and then go back to where the indentation starts from. Right? Then you say else. Very simple. You have to follow that indentation again. And then you say here, you can then say print oh no. The student did not pass. Right. So when you run this, let's run it. You know how to run anyway. It asks you to say, enter the student grade. And I say 60. And I say enter. See what happened. I didn't have to do anything because the grade is not up to 70. Right? So if I do again to say 75, right? Before I got kicked out, I was explaining what we call conditional expression. I was explaining what you call conditional expression. A conditional expression is a situation whereby you perform a conditional expression without using the if or else, right? So you can say, instead of saying, let's say, instead of saying this, instead of saying let's use this. I'm going to use this, right? I'm going to use this tool. But let me first make this a markdown. Let's call it a conditional expression, right? Or a conditional expression. So a conditional expression is an expression that you make in the form of conditional statement, whereby you do not want to use the if-else statement. So look at this, right? Look at this. So you can say here, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste this. I'm not gonna say print here. I'm just gonna say result. Let's say I say result equal, I then pass this value. And I say else result equal right. And I can then say run this. I can come out and say result. Then I do this, you see, and I say 75. See what happened? Right? Still the same. I didn't say print and all those things, right? I just call result here. I just call the result. I can also come here to say, let's do this. I'm going to copy this. I'm trying to explain what conditional expression is, and that is what I'm doing here. I'll say result, right, equal, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this here, right? And I'm going to say result equal this, well done to the student passed, right? And I'll say if grade, right? If grade is greater than or equal to 70, right? And I'll say here else, and I'll put this. I'll just put this. Copy, and I'll say else, and I'll put this. Right? And I'll then call result. Right? And here, I'm just going to come here. I'm going to come here, only this, I'll call. Remember? I'll do this. Does it make sense? Remember, this is value of grade, is whatever user input here. So if I do this, and I'll say 87. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is I'm trying to be holistic and they say be all righteousness. I don't know how to call that English. They said I'm trying to be all righteousness or something like that, or holistic. So basically, what I'm trying to do is that there are different ways in which people write code. Everybody might not write the same type of code. So you need to understand various ways in which you do it. So you can write this. This is more simple, right? So it's interesting, right? You can have multiple statements. You can have multiple statements in a particular program suite. For instance, where we did this, I can copy this. Let me say, I'm going to make this, and I'm going to say multiple statement. And I can say if, oh no, sorry, this is, so, and I will say, and I'll put this here, and I'll say here again, and I'll say, oh no, the student failed, and I'll say print again, right? And I'll say the student needs to sit for, what do we normally sit for? Sub something, I can't remember. Need to sit for sub. They call it sub, I can't remember. Or need to sit for the exam, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter anyway. Right? But instead of me, if I run this, look at it. If I say 67, You see, say, oh no, the student needs to sit for the re-exam, right? Instead of me to write this again, there's what we call new line function in Python. I'm not sure if I've explained it for you. I'll write everything inside here. I'm just going to say this. Look at what I did. I'm just putting that in there, right? And I'm going to say new line, and I'm going to say n, right? Everything inside, Python understands that. And I'm going to copy this, and I can just copy this, and I'll put it after here. Instead of, I'm just going to comment this out. You see, it's still going to give me the same thing. Instead of me writing this, I can just be, okay, let me be simplistic enough. Remember the concept of keep it simple and short, the keys concept. That's how programming is written. So if I do this and I say 67, and I enter, you see, everything is still the same. The reason why this comes here is because of the space that I put here. So if I run it again and I say 68, you see, I can do the same thing. If I want to go on the next line, I'm just going to say /n. That's how to go on the next line. Instead of you to keep printing, to keep saying print, you can do everything on a single line. It's up to you. Right, it's up to you. So let's go to the if, elif, else statement. Right? The if, elif, else statement, as I said, works based on what condition is true. And if the statement does not find any condition, right? If the statement does not find any condition to be true, the statement that is attached to the else is going to take place by default. So let's make this a markdown, and I say if elif s, right? And here, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So in Markdown, if you look at that Markdown, I'm using this to highlight. If you look at some of the things that I've been doing, I'm using this to highlight this and this in Jupyter Notebook. I'm using it to highlight in Markdown, right? If you look at this, if I do this and this, right? If I run it, you see that it's been highlighted, right? I don't know if I will see it on the keyboard to show you what I've used. I want to show it on the screen keyboard, what I've used. You see on your keyboard, right? On your keyboard, you see this. You see this. This is what I'm pressing, this one. I don't know where this is on your keyboard, but it's just before the letter 1 as it is here, right? On your own keypad. This one is not this one, because some people make mistake and type this one and they realize that it doesn't work. So it is this one and not this one. This is beside your one. So it's not the apostrophe, it's this. The apostrophe, before you can press it, you have to press shift. But this, you don't press the shift if you want to use this. Please take note. So that's what I'm doing, all just because I want to highlight. So, and I said, with the if, elif, else, I want to believe that you understand the explanation that I give. If you do not understand, I'm going to explain again. The if, elif, else evaluate all the conditions that are attached to the if and the elif and all the elif. The elif can be 1 million, but of course, it's not going to get to that page, to that step. By the time you want to get to that particular area, you have to use something else. But the elif can be as many as possible. If you test the if is only 1. The only if in your if, elif, else, if test is only 1. Elif, you can have as much as possible. depending on the logic of your application or your program, and the else also is only one. So if you test the if, the condition is not true, it goes to test all the elif. Whenever it encounters true in any of the elif, right, it will stop. It will not test the remaining one. It will stop. If it doesn't encounter true in any of the elif, it will, and it doesn't encounter true in the if, it will by default go to else. Whatever the condition, the action that is attached to else will be there by default. If it encounters true at the beginning, which is if, it will ignore every other thing. It will not even go to look for whatever condition is there in the elif or in the else. Are you with me? So it's very, very important. Let's say we want to test for many cases. Let's say you want to say, let's use, I think let's use this grade. Let's say grade. I'm just going to say, let's say grade. Grade equal this. And then after that, you say if, and after that, we say if grade, let's say, I'm looking for, okay, in school, let's do this. Let's say if it is, let's say we want to display what grade itself, right? Grade itself. So let's say we want to say if grade, for somebody to have A, which is excellent, what do we have? A, let's say anything that is 90, that is greater than, you can assist me here. Let's say it's greater than or equal to A greater than or equal to, let's say 90, right? Let's say you display A. So I'm just going to say greater than grade greater than or equal to 90, display A, right? Let's say Control C. That is if grade is from 90 and above. Let's say it's A, right? What do we display for B? Let's say greater than or equal to 80, right? Right? Yes, greater than or equal to 80. So it will display B. Let's say display B. Let's say if grade is then greater than or equal to 70, right? Let's say you say C. And let's say if grade is, let's say 60, let's say you display D. And let's say if grade is, let's say, what do we give to E? What do we give to E? Let's say if grade is greater than or equal to, let's say 50, right? Let's say we say E. And now here, if grade is less than, here, only less than 50, right? Let's say we say F, right? This is the only, we are going to test this for if. We are going to test this for elif. We are going to test this for else. Yeah, so this is less than, I think I made a mistake there. Okay, thank you. So if grade is, so this is the one that will test for elif. So you need to understand the first of your condition is for if, the last of your condition is for else. All the conditions between the first and the last are for elif. Are you with me? So here you've asked the user to input the grade, right? To enter the grade. And here you say, look at the if grade. Now here is the thing. You've in your pseudocode, you have already written the code. Remember when I explained the pseudocode, I said pseudocode is an informal English version. Pseudocode is an informal English version of your algorithm. So here, you are just going to be copying this, right? You're just going to, if I were you, I'm just going to copy this. Grade is greater than or equal to 90, right? If grade is greater than or equal to 90, right? Now, look, you can, it's not a must. Python, oh, if you look at this, I can as well put this inside brackets in case you see another somebody who writes his or her own code like this. Is if you put it inside bracket, if you don't put it inside bracket, Python will still fine with it. Python is still cool with it, right? So if I say, if I then put this inside bracket, for instance, let's try here. I'm not going to run this again, so I'm just going to try it on new one. So let's try it here, and I say here, and I say print, and I say print the student got an A. Let's say, well done, right? Okay, because of our time, I'm just going to do copy and paste here because remember, we've already highlighted, once you are able to picture how to solve the problem, which is the first thing. The first thing in programming is not rushing to the keyboard and start typing, is having a paper, but if you want to be savvy enough, you can have a sticky note on your, I don't even know how to use the sticky note. You can have a sticky note on your stuff and highlight how you want to solve the stuff there, and you can be looking at it, right? But if you look at some of us that have been writing program for the past 20 something years, we were taught with just first write it on paper, how you do it, right? Or you can open your notepad or your notepad plus plus and type out how to do it. So I'm just going to copy this, right? Remember your indentation. Now, all you have to do is to say elif. Your elif has to come from here because it is not part of if. Your else also not part of if. They are not part of each other. Please note. So you now say elif, and then you say this. I'm going to remove the if, right? Here. And I'm going to say 80. I'm going to say the student got a B. Well done. Now, because I want to use elif, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to put this there. Let me just put a space so that it makes the code look a little bit neat. I'll say 70. Student got a C. You can do better next time, right? And here, I'm going to get out of that indentation. It's very, very important. Please note. And I'm going to put this here. I'm going to say 60. And here you say the student got a D. Yeah. This is not a bad result, but not a good one either. You can perform better next time. And then you can come here to put next line. Up to you. It's up to you. So I might not emphasize on that going forward. So if you come here and you say got the next is 50, right? 50. And you say, let's just put the same here. Just put the same here. Right? Just gonna put the same here. And then the next one is to come down and say else. Else. You don't have to write it. You don't have to write the code. You just say else. You can just say print. You can just say print. We might have some error here with what I'm saying. I don't know why it's printing that one. You can just say print. Oh no, the student failed. You can continue to do all those other paparazzi that I'm doing. If I do this, you see there's a mistake somewhere, and that is basically on line 16. I think somewhere here, right? I think somewhere here, right? I want to see where is my there. If you look at this, if you look at all these, I'm supposed to be using this. I'm supposed to be using this. That's where the problem is coming from. I'm supposed to be using this. Sometimes there are some things that I'm very poor at. As smart as people think I am, I don't know, sometimes know the difference between vertical and horizontal. Please take note. So I also don't know the difference between backslash and forward slash. If I go for an interview and I do and they use that, I may fail. Trust me. So we need to use this. Right. Okay. So let's try it again. Yeah, great. So basically, right? Oh, okay, thank you. People have actually assisted me already. So if I say whatever you put here, let's say you say 65, it's going to give you something. The student got a D based on the logic, whatever that you use, right? Remember here, we just say else. We didn't say grade less than 50. This already knows that anything that is less than 50 is else, because we say greater than or equal to 50. That is, else is anything that is not within this range. So if we do this and I say 49, you see, oh no, the student failed. And I didn't write the elif. I didn't put anything. So that is why it is very, very important, right? To do that, right? But now, take note of one thing: the else in the if elif, the else in the if elif else conditional statement is optional. But it enables you basically to undo values that do not satisfy any of the condition. Are you with me? So, but if it doesn't have the else and any of the condition is not true, if you don't have the implication of not putting the else is that if you do not put the else and if any of this condition is not true, the program is not going to execute. Right? Are you with me? It's very, very important. So for instance, if you say, let's do this, just going to cut. And I run this, you see that it runs. And if I say 49, You see, nothing happens. So that else is optional. But what it allows you to do, what that else allows you to do is that it allows you to be able to undo the values that do not satisfy any of that condition. So here we enter 49 and nothing happens because we could not satisfy any of these conditions. That's why it is important to put it. But if you don't want to display anything, it depends on the logic of your code. Right. It all depends on the logic of your code here, right? So that is basically how the if, else, elif, else works. Right. We call it a while loop, the while statement. So the while statement is being called a while statement. Right? A while statement, basically, as I said earlier, it allows you to repeat one. Please listen to me very carefully. It allows you to repeat one or more actions while the condition remains true. While the condition remains true. That's why they call it loop. Right? So, for instance, let's say you want to go on a shopping spree. What you are doing is that as long as there are still, let's say, there are still more items in your on your shopping list, keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. But once there are no more items in your shopping list, it means you can stop shopping. Right? That's a simpler way of saying it. So let's look at an example. Think of something. Let's say we say, okay, let's say number. Let's say number is equal to 3, right? We want to find the power, the power of 3 that is large than 50. The power of 3 that is large than 50. What do we do? And we say, let's say we say, while, this is a simple mathematics, say while number, right, is less than or equal to, let's say 50, you can say number equal number number times 3. Let's say number times 3. Right? So if you come here, you can then call number. Say number. If you run this, you see what happened. So as long as number, what we did here, okay, let me first, does anybody understand what we did here? If you understand what we did here, let me know. So what we did here is very simple. We create a variable number and we assign value 3 to it, or we initialize it to 3. Right? Then the statement, the while statement kicks in. The while statement, what we are doing is we are trying to increase the value of number by 3 by multiplying number, right, by 3. And we want to know that is a multiple of 3. That is a multiple of 3. Or you can say product of 3 in mathematics. So what we then do, we are testing for the condition whereby the number is less than or equal to 50. If it is true, continue, do it again. So we say 3 multiplied by 3. What does it give us? It gives us 9. It is still less than 50. Continue. 9 multiplied by 3, right? We keep increasing number by 3. By multiplying whatever the value, the current value of number is by 3. So 9 multiplied by 3, it gives us what? 27. Okay, it's less than 50. Continue. 27 multiplied by 3 is 81. Is greater than 50. It has to stop. Because what we said is that while number is less than 50, continue. Once we get anything that is greater than 50, we're going to stop. Now, if I say number multiplied by 2, right? Here it is. It's going to get to 96. Does that make sense? So basically, it keeps increasing. It keeps increasing number until it gets to 96. Does anybody understand how this gets to 96? We say 3 multiplied by 2, it gives us 6. It's less than 50. Continue. 6 multiplied by 2, it gives us 12. It's less than 50. Continue. 12 multiplied by 2, it gives us 24. It's less than 50. Continue. 24 multiplied by 50, it gives us, by 2, sorry, it gives us 48. It's still less than 50. Continue. 48 multiplied by 2 is 96. That's how we got to 96. Does that make sense? So let's try and use this. Let's set our counter to 0.0. And let's say while counter is less than, this is 10 billion. While counter is less than 10 billion. And I say here, counter plus equals 0.5, right? This is an assignment operator to increment by whatever you assign. If you do not assign anything, the default value is 1. If you do not assign anything, if you say counter like this, the default value is 1. But I'm trying to demonstrate something to you. That's why I'm actually, that's why I'm assigning, guys, just give me 1 minute. Let's assume that we are now incrementing counter by 0.5. Like from 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, right? 2, 2.5. And I say print here. I say print. This is a Python training. We are still at the early stage, right? And I said, now look, you can use else with while. So I come out here and I say else, print, this is the end. right? Now, if I run this, right, basically this is going to have a devastating effect on the system. No matter how fast your system is, you cannot be counting 0, 1, 0, 0.5, 1.5, 2, 2.5. It's going to, if you start counting with your mouth, it's going to take you up to about six months before you get to 10 billion. Even the computer, because that's what the instruction, that's the instruction we give to the computer. If I run this, it will keep printing, this, it will never stop. Right? It will never stop. Okay, but now I'm just going to interrupt it. You see, it still takes time before it stopped. You see, it's still printing, right? Despite the fact that I've stopped it, right? Remember, I told you you might also get the same thing. So I might have to force stop it, because the number that I assign is a little bit much. But if you look at here, see, it says I've stopped it, right? But if you keep printing it, it will take some time. Now, sometimes, if you want, you can do this. We do this. This is basically only useful to Jupyter Notebook. It's not applicable in other Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab. It's not applicable, and also Code Lab. If you are using Google Online IDE, it's not applicable to PyCharm or Spider or any other Python IDE. So you put this thing, you say time. This helps you to check the time it takes for a code to run. We normally use this in data science and machine learning when you are running algorithm on a very large data set, so that you'll be able to perform a report to say, okay, this it takes this particular time to perform this particular modeling on this particular data set. So for this, let's say if you have constant electricity, put it down and run this. By the time you go home, you go to work in the morning and you come back, the thing will still be running. Now, this is a simple way to write virus to affect your computer, so that when you open that application that has something like this 7 line, actually 6 line, your system hangs. Does that make sense? That's a simple way a virus is written. So if I remember, I've set the counter myself, you don't have to input anything. I can now say counter is equal to counter plus 0.00000001. Right? I can package this as an executable file. And somebody opens this, double click on that executable file. It will keep on running. And you realize that your computer is hanging. That's a simple way of writing virus, right? So basically, a while loop functions in such a way that as long as the condition is true, right? As long as counter is less than 10 billion, this thing will keep on performing. It will keep on working. Right? That's basically what a while loop does. Right. Any question? Okay, so lastly on our list for this session is the for loop. So the for loop allows you to perform or to repeat actions or several actions on a sequence or list. A sequence, if you look at what we said here, I explain what sequence is, right? Sequence is basically under list. I think I explained it in data type. I think it's under data type where I explain it. So where I say, you see, where I say sequence here. So list, tuple, or range. And I explained range for you, if you remember, in the class also, right? So now, if you look at that, a for loop performs various action or to repeat action on that particular sequence, right? Remember, a string can also be a sequence. If you remember, a string can also be a sequence. If you look at the what we did on string. So based on the example that I think it's Mr. Lukman that he enabled us to perform, you can say, let's say for, I'm just going to say characters, or let's say characters in, you still remember the in that we did, right? That's a membership operator, which is what we did, I think, while in session under Python, where we did membership. You see this membership. Membership has to do with in, not in. So please, if you are going to forget, if you have forgotten this, I suggest that you go back to that session. The video is everywhere on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on Google Drive, right? So I said for character in programming, right? In, let's say Python, I'm just going to say in Python programming. Remember, for string or object, I can use it either single or double quote, but you cannot mix them together. Is that you use single quote for both end, or you use double quote for both end. And I say here, and I say print, right? And I say, remember, these characters, right, are here. Is it characters or character? Let me say character. So I can say print character, and here I say end, right, equal, and I'll say this. Look at what's going to happen. This, you see what we did, right? Actually, this is Python. I don't know why I said character. I mean, this variable. I don't know why it can be anything. So if you say characters or you say characters, it's still going to give you the same thing, because this is a variable that represents everything that is here. You see what I did here, right? Look at what I did here. So I said when we enter this, it assigns the P in Python programming to the target variable, right, of the for, and the in this case, the character. And then it gives this end here, right? It's using it to separate each and every one of them. So I print this and I separate it. That's why you see this space here. You can put whatever you want to put there. You can say this. Look at what is going to happen. That's what that means. So it's a built-in function in print. That end is a built-in function in print argument. It moves the cursor by next line. But you specify what you want to be there, right? You can also use sep. You can use sep in case normally we do normally use sep here, and we normally use space. And if you say sep, it's still going to do the same thing for you. So if you do this, so This is how this is printed. But if you look at end, it prints it on a various line. Right. But if you want to use number, let's say I say, then after that, I say print. So I say print, I think SEP is used for numbers. And I say print 10, 40, 60, 70. Well, it doesn't matter. So if I do this, you see what happened? Because I said 4, I used the 4 in the character. That's why it did all this. Now, if I take this away, here, and I say print this, now look at this. Nothing, there's a space here, there's a space here, there's a space here. But what if you want to, this comma is just to separate the sequence. If you want to put comma in every line here, you now see here, you say comma again, and you now say sep, and you say equal, you then put this and you put the comma. If I do this, you see what happens. Right? But let's assume I want to put the space after the comma. You just do this. You see that it separates them. Does that make sense? Another way you can use for is let's say you say somebody, you ask a user to supply maybe a sequence of number, right? And you say, let's say you say Kanta or total, let's say you say total is equals 0, and you have a sequence of number, and you say 4, say 4, my recording. Okay, great. So let's say 4, right? Number in, and you put this list, you say 2, 6, 9, 18, I'm just 54 as my answer. It's up to you. You can play with how many numbers you like. You now say total equal, right? Total plus number. Remember, number here is every individual here. Remember, on a sequence, we are using it to iterate, right? And if I then say, somebody asked earlier, if I call total outside here, excuse, if I call total outside here and I do this, see what happens? Because if you say this is 0, let me say I put 20, we should get something like 109. Right? So this is 20 plus 2, it gives you 22, that's total. 22 plus 6, it gives you 28. 28 plus 9 gives you 37. 37 plus 18 would probably give you 55. 55 plus 54 will give you 109, right? So that's basically how for works. You can also use for on range. You can also use it on range, right? How do you use for on range? You just say, let's say I say for whatever variable you say, number in range, and you say here, let's say 20 or 30, and then you say print, and you say here number, comma, and you say end equal, and you say this, you understand what that is going to mean. If you run this, that's basically how that, what that is going to give to you, right? Let's try. So give me a list of okay, I'm just gonna let's you can unmute, it's fine. Give me a list of any string. So let's say what should we use as the variable? What do we use as the variable? Hello? Or maybe you put it in text in chat. Then I'm gonna take it from there. You can put it in chat. Then let me take it from there. Give me a list. Just give me a list of any string. Hello? Guys are not responding. Okay, somebody has responded. Okay, so countries. Somebody say countries in Africa. So let's say let's just use that as so countries. Let's just say Africa countries. We're not gonna use everything because of our time. So African countries, let's make it a list. So let's say, and because of our time also, I'm gonna say Google. Happy Independence Anniversary to all Nigerians, by the way. God bless all of you, wherever you are. So I'm just gonna say list of countries in Africa. Right? Okay, so I want to look for, where's Wikipedia? Okay, so I'm just going to copy. Let's see if we get some of this. Okay, so I'm just going to try and copy. It's not going to give me. It's going to give me all this one. Okay, so we have Djibouti, Seychelles, DR Congo. So let's come here. We'll then say, please don't mind the spelling in case Djibouti. In case I don't get it right because of our time. Okay, somebody said we can use fruit instead. Yeah, I think that's better. Let's say fruits. Let's say fruits equal apple, right? Oranges. Oranges, water, melon, mango, what else? Watermelon, mango, banana, what else? Pineapple. Yeah, pineapple. Let's say berries. Berries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just want to get it maybe up to 10. Let's say kiwi. Let's say what else? Kiwi. It's so amazing how this thing gets skipped off your head. Let's say kiwi, pear. I think that's 9. And the last one, let's say guava. And then here, you now say, let's say you come here, you say for fruit. You remember, fruit is a variable. For fruit in fruits, right? You now say print I love fruit, right? I'm not, you see, I love apple, I love oranges, I love blah, 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 like that. Now, you can do something and say, once you get to watermelon, stop. Do not go beyond. Say once you get to watermelon, do not go beyond. Right? So you then say here, let's say let's do it on another stage. So I want to say once you get to, let's say, watermelon, stop and do not say anything again, right? And here you say, here you bring this here and you say, if we want to do comparison now, you say if fruit equal, that's comparison, we are comparing, equal, let's say, watermelon here. You then say break. That's all. When you print this, once it gets to watermelon, it doesn't print anything anymore. You can say, okay, once you get to from Aderemi, from watermelon, continue. Right? So you can say here, I'm just going to say, copy, and I'm going to say here, from how do you do that? So you start from the beginning and you say here, instead of saying print, you come here. Come here. I'm going to cut this. This is a trick. You have to say for this, and you have to come here and say this, and you say if fruit equal watermelon, you say continue, continue, and then do this. And once you do this, you see what happened. So once it gets to watermelon, skip watermelon and continue from the remaining one. That's basically what happened here. Right? So that is basically how a for loop work. We're going to be seeing how all those things are used, how we use that on various projects and examples and real life examples that you're going to be doing.